Welcome to Grants Writing Made Clear. I am your host, Dr. Trinette, and today I am joined by Dean Gary Cuddeback. Gary is not only a longtime friend and former colleague, but also a respected NIH funded researcher and now Dean of the School of Social Work at the Virginia Commonwealth University. In part one of our conversation, we talk about his research journey and lessons from navigating the NIH world. This episode is filled with insights and honesty. You don't want to miss it. Welcome to Grants Writing Made Clear. The truth is, the grants writing process isn't always clear, but with the right guidance, proven actionable strategies, and expert insights, the process becomes easier, simpler, and yes, clearer. I am Dr. Trinette, your host of Grants Writing Made Clear, and a former nonprofit president turned distinguished professor and behavioral scientist with 2 decades of grant writing experience. I remember what it was like to be a busy nonprofit leader with little time but big financial sustainability concerns. Over the years, I have transformed my skills from securing $1,000 foundation grants to winning multi-million-dollar federal grants. I created this podcast in response to the grant writing coaching requests I've received from nonprofit leaders, entrepreneurs, and professors over the years. Join me each week as I reveal insider strategies and share key lessons that turn wishful thinking into winning applications. Pull up a seat and get ready to be inspired, empowered, and transformed. Whether you're a beginner or a pro looking to sharpen your skills and create a life you love, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's get started. Welcome to Grants Writing Made Clear. I am so glad you're here. Whether you are early career, mid-career, or a good mentor who mentors others through the grant writing process, this conversation is for you. Today, I am so excited to be joined by a distinguished guest, a seasoned researcher, my former colleague and still my friend, and now Dean of the Virginia Commonwealth University School of Social Work, Dean Gary Cuddeback. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm delighted to be here, Jeanette. Thank you. It's really terrific to be a part of this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am so excited. It has been a while since we sat down to chat. And so, really looking forward to this conversation. I think we should dive in because I have a lot that I want to cover with you while we're together. The first thing is, I would love for you to start us off by just talking a little bit about yourself, your academic journey. I know that you were with me a few years ago. So just your academic journey, your research background, and what has led you to even becoming a dean.
Sure. Thank you. So, yeah, I sort of ended up here in a circuitous route, a lot of it inadvertent. I had gotten a MSW and MPH from University of South Florida and was working in the community. I was doing child welfare programs and some other things, and decided I wanted to go back to school and get a PhD. Mostly, I thought I wanted to teach, and
Mm,
I got into my doctoral program at University of Tennessee, and really fell in love with the research process,
yeah.
and liked that much more than I thought I would. So I went on the market a little bit earlier than I had planned to. I had a postdoctoral opportunity, and part of it fell through. So went on the market, had an offer at a university, and then also had an offer at the Sheps Center for Health Services Research at UNC,
Yeah.
and knew nothing about UNC or health services or any of it. And it was focused on a different substantive area. It was not child welfare, it was mental health criminal justice. So there would be a steep learning curve to go along with that. But I
Yes.
thought the opportunities at UNC would be better, even though the other university that it offered probably would have been fine too.
Hmm.
We ended up at UNC at the Shep Center for Health Services Research, and I'm smiling, maybe for folks who are early in their careers or even doc students. I had applied to the UNC job on 4 occasions before I finally got it, which
I
is a
love this
funny.
story because
Yeah, you said
yeah,
one story as an aside. So,
yeah,
um, it took me a while to get an on-campus interview, even though I was on campus the whole time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
fourth time is a charm, as they say. So I worked for 5 years at the Shep Center, which was absolutely terrific. It was great mentorship, terrific opportunities to write my own grants and
Mhm,
understand grant writing and research and scholarship from
mhm,
just a really prolific, terrific mentor, Joe Morrissey.
mm,
And that really set sort of the foundation for the rest of my career. And I learned more during my time at the Shep Center with Joe and some other team members there than I did in my doctoral program and really elsewhere. So joined the faculty at School of Social Work at UNC in '08, and then matriculated up to distinguished professor
mhm,
in 2019,
mhm,
all along doing mental health services and intervention research, collaborating with the community, working in mental health courts and jails, prisons, probation, parole. Really had a terrific time working in those settings. Decided in 2021 that I wanted to try, after almost 20 years at UNC, decided I wanted to try administration and be an associate dean for research,
yeah,
which, when it comes to administration, is sort of a light lift because there's really, there's no personnel. You're not hiring or firing or, you know, making really tough decisions other than distributing funding and trying to mentor others to grow their own programs of research. So I
mm,
thought that would be a good start. And VCU has been a great fit for a lot of reasons, developing my own program of research here, as well as helping and mentoring others.
mhm,
Though shortly after I was hired, the dean that hired me left, and then the interim prior to me left, and it was
mhm.
just me
Okay.
to become interim dean, and then I was made permanent dean last November. So sort of never had aspirations to be a dean. As a matter of fact, I said anyone who wants to be a dean should not be allowed to be a dean.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot I like about it, and that's sort of where I ended up now as dean at Virginia Commonwealth University.
Thank you. I love that. And so much of that, Gary, really resonated with me as I think about my own journey and the journey of others. And I do always enjoy you telling a story about applying to to the School of Social Work. But that was a key lesson, right? In a lesson of perseverance. How do you think that has in any way prepared you for the grant writing journey?
Boy, that's an excellent and astute point, because publishing as well, but publishing and grant writing is
Yeah.
all about perseverance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it comes along with a lot of failure and feelings of rejection,
Yeah. Yeah.
literally and figuratively, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if I had a dime for every grant I wrote that didn't get funded,
Yeah.
I would be Zooming with you from a remote desert island.
Yeah.
Um, so I think perseverance and understanding, a vision and what I want to accomplish, but that it takes time and hard work and perseverance to get there, I think is right on. And certainly a lesson I learned in applying to the position at UNC so many times. So yeah, perseverance and receiving rejection
Mm.
and feedback with grace and sort of a perspective that, all right, what am I going to learn from this and take from
Mhm.
this and
Mhm.
use this to inform the next iteration?
Mhm. Mhm.
It was,
Yeah, I agree. So perseverance, thinking about rejection, not as rejection, but as an opportunity to grow and to revise your product and make it better. Any other mindset mantras people should be thinking about, or even soft skills, if you will, that you think are important along this journey?
yeah, I would say, two things. One mindset is have a growth mindset, right?
Mm.
Sort of cliche, but be open and constantly learning,
Mhm.
right? Challenging yourself to improve your methodological skills, your substantive mastery of your area of research. So having a growth mindset, because as you
Mhm.
and I both know, Trinette, you don't learn it all in your doctoral program.
No.
The learning only begins then.
Yes.
You have to constantly be evolving just to keep up. So having
Yes.
a growth mindset. And I think the other thing is continuing to work on writing skills,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Uh, and constantly challenge yourself to write better, improve your writing, the way you're communicating in your writing are probably two of the most
Yeah.
critical
Yeah.
things that you can have.
I agree. Whenever we are reviewing doc students' applications, the writing for me always is important because writing can be one of those things that's hard to teach, you know? And so I agree, the writing, growing in your methods, growing in your research area, all three are important. And how do you do that? How do you do that when you are on the tenure track and you're teaching and you have some time for research, but you also have committees? Like, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Good question. And if I knew a good strategy for that, I would certainly share it. And if you've got any tips, I would take them. I think reading. So trying to
Mhm,
stay up to date into,
mhm,
what's happening in your discipline and your field of study. Reviewing articles as ad hoc reviews
mhm,
is a great way to stay up to date
mhm,
and get
mhm,
exposed to different writing styles, get
mhm.
exposed to critiquing writing styles. This doesn't happen right away, but reviewing grants and proposals right,
Yes,
to do that for NIH, for example, or CDC or others, you have to get those grants
yeah,
to get a ticket to play.
mhm,
But there are other ways too. SAMHSA, HRSA, there's other
mhm,
funding agencies that you might be able to do reviews for.
mhm.
So reviewing and critiquing, reading, and then setting time aside to work on your own writing.
Yeah,
Fortunately, that, as I think about on my career, the first thing that gets sacrificed is my protected time to read and write. As
yes,
I get busier with managing projects and committees and doing administrative stuff,
yeah.
my window of protected time for writing, it shrinks or is non-existent.
Yeah, it can be difficult, especially if you're like me. I like chunks of time. You know, they say that the most effective, the most productive writers write every day for an hour, but that's not really my style. I've tried multiple times, Gary, it's not worked well for me. And so I think if you're one of those people who you think you do better with 3 or more hours, yeah, it can be hard to find that in your schedule. But I love your suggestions, and I'll say that another thing that I do is because I don't have a ton of time is try to at least read the abstracts in my field. Because if I can read the abstracts, I have a sense of where the field is and possibly where the field is going. And so that helps when you don't have a ton of time.
That's excellent.
Yeah. And taking advantage of summers, right? Like that's another good one. Yeah.
And I would say, speaking of abstracts, you made me think of reviewing conference abstracts, right? You get
Mhm.
big exposure to a lot of different things,
Mhm.
whether it's SWIR or CSWE or APHA or even niche conferences that are specific to different disciplines. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you can do that when you're more junior.
Right.
They love early career people. And as you think back maybe about your first major grant, your first large grant, what kinds of resources were helpful in helping you prepare for that grant? So, you talked about your amazing mentors, maybe it's mentorship, maybe it is institutional resources, but which kinds of resources were helpful for you?
Yeah, I'm smiling a little bit because I always say the only thing worse than writing a grant is getting grant.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in writing the grant, I had terrific mentorship and, senior people who were willing to share their own grants, both successful and failed, with me to talk me through the process, to help me understand, you know, how the whole review process works and what were critical issues. So I think the mentorship I had around, my first grant attempts was invaluable.
Mhm.
Um, particularly folks who are willing to share their grants with
Yes. Yes.
you, and because you don't know, you don't the doc program I went to wasn't grant heavy. I really didn't learn too much about grant writing there. So it wasn't until I got to the Shep Center did I begin to see examples of successful and unsuccessful.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
having mentorship, I would say, first and foremost,
Mhm.
was the most critical aspect to it. I think, the environment you're in, the resources in that environment make a difference, particularly if you're assembling as a new investigator, assembling a research team that's
Mhm.
gonna have to have more credibility than you do, right?
Mhm.
You're the senior mentor on the team with you. So having access to those folks who are willing to work with you was a critical part. And I think folks who could coach you around your research ideas, right? Who
Yes.
understand sort of your area and know this has been done or that hasn't been done
Yeah.
here. This is an innovative way to think about it. Or that, the field is saturated with studies just like this. You need to come
Mhm.
new.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I would point back to the mentoring senior people who are there to support.
Yeah, it sounds like your primary suggestions are mentorship. So, encouraging people who are listening today to find a good mentor or maybe multiple mentors, right? Like, typically, we want a mentoring team, even if it's informal. So, mentorship. And it sounds like you're also saying if you can find example grant proposals, that's another big one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That was just the beginning. Gary dropped so many gems on research, resilience, and rising into leadership. Well, in part two, we go deeper. So be sure to subscribe and join us for part two next week. You won't want to miss what's next. And hey, don't forget to join my new Grant Writing Made Clear private Facebook group where you can find many tips on grant writing. You can get support, connection, network with other colleagues. Please don't forget to go join Grant Writing Made Clear private Facebook group. I hope to see you there. Thank you for listening to Grant Writing Made Clear. I hope today's episode gave you inspiration, confidence, and clear information that you can turn into action. Remember, you are not alone. There's a whole community here striving for the same impact. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a quick review to help more people find the show, and share this episode with others in your network. It really does make a difference. For more grant writing tips and resources, follow me on social media. Until next time. Keep showing up, keep learning, and remain determined. I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye for now.